Baby of mine, it's okay to cry. Mama will stay by your side. Let me sing you a song while I hold you tight. I'll be here to kiss you goodnight. Our day was short, somehow time flew by. I know it's hard to say goodbye, but tomorrow
what is, well, the music before was Final Fantasy V. This music is clearly Super Mario.
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah, it's from Super Mario World, but yeah.
Oh yeah.
And we're moving over to the live screen.
Well, finally.
Well, I mean, you'd be able to hear us for a little bit. I just haven't moved us to the screen yet. Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, hello there.
Hi. Yeah, we were just talking about the fact that Mars, you saw Prey, right? That was what we were talking about. I remembered it was some Predator movie, but like the name Prey is never going to stick in my head. Because first off, because it's the opposite of Predator, so that just doesn't make any sense. But
yeah, it's like what was different? I mean, obviously, the main character of the movie was the prey, but at the same time, yeah, it's the case for all of them.
Yeah.
Although this one, I guess it focused more on the fact that they were also hunters, but
isn't that also
I don't know.
Sort of usually the case? Like, I know in the very first one, they weren't hunters, but they were like mercenaries or, soldiers of fortune, and they were still hunting people, just not animals, and then they started getting hunted themselves. So it's like, it really, the only thing that it turned on its head was that it rewound the clock kind of to an earlier type of society. That's...
Yeah, so do you want me to get into it?
Yeah, you can get into it.
Oh, okay. I don't know if you wanted to say welcome to the Vomitorium.
Well, you just did.
Well, cool. Welcome. So I saw Prey, like literally just finished it like 30 minutes ago. And I signed up. I was a little peeved earlier because I was like, really? It's on freaking Hulu? Like the one service I'm not paying for, but I got, the 7-day.
Is anybody paying for Hulu anymore?
I don't know.
Especially
I got a
now that
7-day
Disney's,
free trial.
Moving everything over that they own from Hulu to Disney Plus.
Yeah. But I was, I saw all these people talking about it, and I was like, oh, I want to talk about it. So, yeah, I signed up for a free trial, and so like you were saying, some people were making assumptions about it based on the trailer, but I mean, like I said,
that was the funny thing, right? It was based not on what was in the trailer, it was what they didn't see in the trailer, and I thought that was the weirdest thing. Like, we've gotten that far that you see like the opposite of evidence in a trailer, so now you have to start jumping to conclusions. Like, well, I didn't see the thing that confirmed what I want, so the other thing must be there.
Well, what I was saying was, if you got from the trailer that it is Predator versus Native Americans, then you got the gist. That's it.
Yeah,
that's pretty much it. And I have no complaints. I thought it was good. It was good. It takes place in 1719.
Oh, okay.
Somewhere in the American plains. It was a little confusing at first because they kept talking about hunting a lion. Like, they started off, there was some marauding lion that they were trying
like
to...
a cougar? Were they hunting a cougar?
Well, yeah, I was like, wait a minute, a lion? Like, in America?
Yeah, mountain lions.
I was confused because I thought they meant like a lion. And it was a mountain.
Funny enough, that is what lion means in most of the world. We just think of the African lion off the top of our head. Like in the Bible, when they talk about the lion, they talk about the mountain lions that live in the Middle East.
Yeah, so they were hunting a mountain lion.
Yeah.
But of course, while doing that, there was a young woman who noticed that there were other tracks around, and it turned out there was a predator that was initially started just like hunting animals. It was going after, wolves and bears and stuff like that. But then, of course, once it ran into humans...
because it's looking for the most dangerous game, and then they're like, oh, wait.
Yeah.
This game hunts with tools. It's not just its hands. Okay, we'll go after that.
But it was interesting. There's some cool, awesome weapons that you've never seen on a Predator before. That was really cool. That it brought out, because it also, so it's fighting the Native Americans, but there's also, I think, French trappers around,
Okay.
with guns and things, and so it goes up against them, and it's got these really cool weapons that are
That
really
makes sense
neat.
too, because if they're further inland at about that time, the French were the only people that were colonizing those areas, and why
Yeah.
we got the Louisiana Purchase from them.
Right. So that was kind of neat, and yet it seemed kind of like they changed it to look a little bit archaic. Like
Yeah.
its helmet looked like a skull, kind of like some kind of
See,
animal skull.
Now, I'm not expecting a huge difference in technology from the Predators, given the fact
Yeah.
that like they're already spacefaring. So like, I don't know, a couple hundred years is not a huge difference in technology
Yeah.
for them.
Yeah, it was kind of weird, but at the same time, it was. I think you kind of get the impression that the technology and the look is kind of like from all the other movies, like all the other Predators kind of have different looks.
Yeah.
Like they don't all look the same. And so the helmet looking like a skull, it wasn't a skull. It was
Yeah, it was
clearly a
just
helmet because it
design.
had some technology in it. Like it had its little aiming, the little 3 dots came out of the skull. So it was clearly a helmet, but
Yeah.
it was kind of neat that it looked like a skull. But yeah, that kind of played an interesting role because she was trying to figure out how this technology works that she doesn't, obviously understand. But yeah, I mean, and the fact that the protagonist was female didn't bother me at all. I mean, there were obviously male, there was there was also a male protagonist in her tribe who, was not, they didn't portray him as horrible or incompetent or anything like
Yeah.
that. He was just as competent as she was. It was just kind of luck, who ended up getting killed and who ended up, ultimately fighting it in the end and stuff like that. Without giving too much away, obviously. I'm sure you can figure out who ended up fighting it in the end. But yeah, if people got the idea that maybe it was woke, it wasn't. It was just a fun action movie, and I had no complaints. So
That's good.
recommend.
So you would definitely say it's better than was it Predators, where
Yeah.
it turned out that Topher Grace was the bad guy the entire time.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just stupid. This
I
was more
thought
of a
he played a good psychopath. It was just a stupid turn for the movie to take.
yeah. This was very much more straightforward. This was very much going back to the roots of just, obviously, there were some guns, but obviously, 17, 19 guns.
Yeah, like muskets you had to load up.
Yeah,
and stuff like
exactly.
that,
Yeah, there's some scenes where they like shoot at it and like miss or whatever. They'll be like, "Oh shit, yeah, I gotta quickly, pack the gun again." But he definitely it was going back to the roots where it's just a straight up man versus alien kind of back and forth. The humans got in a few hits and then it would get a few hits, and it ended up killing a lot of humans, and then they someone would stab it or whatever, and it was very reminiscent of the original.
Yeah, sure. It was.
And she had to come up with a real clever plan, which was I'll just say not wholly expected. There was she came up with a clever plan that was a bit unexpected. I thought she was going one way and it went a different way, so at least I didn't expect it.
Well, I think you kind of have to, because ultimately, even the original Predator is just a spin on the classic short story, The Most Dangerous Game.
Yeah.
Except instead of, well, I guess Predators is closer to The Most Dangerous Game in that case, because instead of being trapped on the island of the hunter comes down to where you are. Um, but even like
Yeah.
in the original story, the guy had to fake his own death by leaping off a cliff to make the hound stop chasing him. And then it turned off, well, he actually didn't go all the way down the cliff, and then he snuck back into the person's room and was there waiting for him in the dark of the night behind his curtains while he was asleep and
Yeah.
won the game. So you always have to have some type of twist if you're going to do any type of Most Dangerous Game story, because just watching somebody hunt somebody else straightforward is boring. You're going to lose the attention
Yeah.
of somebody that way.
Yeah. And it was interesting. It made me think like sort of the overarching, I guess, I want to say message. I don't mean like political
Yeah.
message, but sort of interesting take of the movie was like the longer he let a person survive, or the longer the person survives, the more they figure him out, right?
Yeah.
Because, like, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger figures out that he can't see him with the mud all over him. She figures out something similar. She's kind of watching it and watching how it reacts. And she kind of figures out, oh, it's not going to attack if it doesn't think I'm a threat. And it doesn't attack this one guy for this one reason. And she's like piecing it together.
Yeah.
And then she sees how the technology in the helmet works, and she figures out a way to, you know, turn that to her advantage. So it's all very, you know, there's some thinking through. It wasn't just dumb action. There was some clever. I thought it was very clever near the
Well,
end.
it's good
where she
too,
kind
because
of-
it's kind of going back to the original. One of the cruxes to the writing, to the solution, was the acknowledgement that man is such a dangerous game because we're pattern recognition machines, right? You give
Yeah.
us any amount of time and we start to figure shit out.
Yeah. So yeah, to answer Fizchozo's question, yeah, I liked it a lot. And yeah, I will say that about it is that it wasn't just dumb turn your brain off. Even it was, you know, there's a lot of action, but there was also some cleverness near the end, and you know, how she kind of figured stuff out, figured out how to beat him.
Cool. I'll probably watch it then.
Not to spoil it too much, but I mean, you know, she's gonna figure it out.
Because I like the original Predator.
Yeah.
I'm okay with Predator 2. I know a lot of people kind of like it. To me, it was it's a step downward from the original. But then everything after that has just kind of been awful. It's like I could go for a good Predator movie, at least a half decent one.
Yeah. But I really liked the new, as far as I can remember, some of the new technology that he whips out just out of nowhere. He's pulling out these crazy weapons and defensive stuff, and like, oh, I didn't know they could do that.
I really hated the one with Olivia Munn and the dog. That one was awful.
Mm.
Why is there a Predator
Olivia
dog?
Munn and the dog.
It was the one with the Predator
Oh,
dog.
God.
Yeah, like that was horrible. Like why is there even a Predator dog?
Yeah, see, that's why I liked the fact that this went back to basics, you know.
Yeah.
It didn't get so super complicated and all these different, this bunch of predators is different from that bunch of predators, and
There's a
the
girl
dogs
Predator
and-
now. It's like, who cares?
Yeah.
I just want to see them killing people.
in
the
this
people
one, there's
overcoming
one
it.
predator. Yeah. There's one
Yeah.
predator. He's awesome. And, you know, there's a lot of blood and gore, and there's, you know, a lot of fighting and, you know, some tricks here and there.
That's good.
So it was good. And yeah, like you had mentioned, you know, there's been female protagonists in action movies going back to 1979 at least,
yeah.
if not before. So
My sketchbook is asking, why was he more equipped than the 1987 Predator? And I think the best
a good
explanation,
question.
as you brought up too, was it just seems more like the Predators are unique hunters of their own with their own set of
Yeah.
equipment. Because for a spacefaring species, 200 years or so really isn't that big of a time for technological improvement. This is just
Yeah.
the set of equipment that this predator happened to have versus what that one happened to have.
Yeah, that's sort of the impression that I got, that it was like I said, it had the skull helmet that was
Yeah.
very different from any other helmet I've seen, but at the same time, it's similar technology. So I think they're just all kind of
Yeah.
unique, which is kind of a cool idea. There's, the next predator you run into, you never know what tricks it's going to pull out.
Yeah. Which would be cool if that was the case over all the movies. A lot of the stuff that they've done have kind of screwed that over, especially when they start introducing multiple. I guess you could say there are different tribes.
Factions.
I don't know. They've just kind of completely fucked that over.
I like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that they needed to do this whole go back, whatever, 300 years, but I like the fact that they did that. I think they did that so that they could just simplify, just like, okay, enough of this bullshit. Let's just go back to one predator, bunch of people, just fighting.
Yeah.
Because I think the whole series just got way too complicated.
Oh yeah, I liked Predator way more, like way more before they had any like extensive lore for the predators themselves. Like I like that this was kind of just like a universal monster in a way. This is just like a threat you can't deal with. But if you're really, really good and patient and live long enough, you can eventually figure out a way to deal with it.
Yeah, and they definitely didn't go into, Fitzjones was talking about higher ranked, and it's like, they didn't go into any of that bullshit. It was just, here's a predator, he's got cool weapons, deal with it. So, and as for, Sketchbook mentioning the female, she wasn't annoying. She didn't seem annoying. And like I said, there was, most of the action, was around the other male members of the tribe, and they all, there wasn't any they were all competent and they all did a decent job. And, like I said, they'd come in and they'd hurt it in some way, but it would just kind of barely beat them. And then, and then sort of the main hunter of the tribe, like almost defeated it, but and stuff like that. So it was just, I thought it was cool. There was nothing, it didn't seem straight, like some of these movies where it's like they bring in a woman and she like defeats these gigantic men, like Harley Quinn or whatever.
Yeah.
Like these ridiculous, like a 110-pound girl could defeat a 250-pound man. There was none of that. It was more cleverness and figuring out a way to defeat it.
This is my problem with most of this stuff. This is why actually I didn't hate Atomic Blonde. I think that movie gets more hate than it should, but most of what she did involved guns. If you actually use like an equalizer for a woman in action movies, nobody gives a shit. Like if you just gave women guns and they were mowing people down, it's like, okay, yeah, because anybody could mow somebody down with guns. That would be perfectly fine.
Yeah. Well, and it even established that she wasn't very good with a bow and arrow.
Yeah.
Especially compared to the other hunters.
Yeah, they gave the character faults.
Yeah, exactly. Like she screwed up several times with the bow and arrow, and then she finds another way around it, and so I liked it. Sketchbook apparently didn't like it, but
yeah,
I thought it was good.
Let's see. Wuhan Fishmonger asks, "Hey, did you guys see that Mad God film by Phil Tippett?" No, I don't know what that is, but can always feel free to. Well, actually, probably can't link it in the YouTube chat. If you were in the Discord, I'd say you could link it, and I'll check it out later. But or you could always tweet it at us, and I can always check it out. But I've not seen it, nor do I know what that is.
See, that's not even accurate.
Sketchbook.
That he says she took down 15 European hunters. That's not what happened. There was a scene where there were several men, but they didn't have their guns ready. She had her weapon. They had basically nothing. And, she defeated a few of the men, but like with a projectile weapon, and they basically just had their hands.
Yeah.
So it was like, yeah. And it wasn't 15. It was like 3 or 4. But whatever. Fine.
Yeah.
Find fault with it.
That's almost kind of like what I was saying before, where people were making assertions from things that weren't even in the trailer.
Yeah. I mean, you could say maybe that scene was a little unrealistic, but I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
Because she was
Most
flipping
of
that
Predator's
tomahawk around.
unrealistic in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't break my immersion. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Okay, that was a little over the top, but it didn't break my immersion. It wasn't that.
Yeah.
She went to take the dog and she went, yeah. She had a tomahawk on a rope. What are you gonna do?
I guess it's a retractable projectile weapon. I think in general I would just call it a ranged weapon. Yeah.
Whatever. A range, yeah. Yeah,
You
she
are
had
still
this
projecting
thing.
It though, but if you have,
Yeah, she would throw it and then she had it on a rope, so she'd pull it back and throw it somewhere else.
yeah.
But here's the thing. It even showed her training with it. It didn't come out of the blue. Like it showed
Oh,
her.
to give her a training sequence.
Yeah, exactly. So, it showed how she got better at using it and stuff like that. So
Okay.
I don't know.
I'll check it out.
Maybe it's not for everyone, but and of course, with modern cinema, all of our expectations are lower. But
Yeah.
I thought it was decent.
I do agree that people made ass assumptions about Chip and Dale based on things that weren't in the trailer. All of mine were based on it, and then I did watch it. We had it on the other room, and even the stuff that wasn't in the trailer did not save things based off my assumptions of what was in the trailer. That was an awful movie. Yeah. But I mean, I guess if you wanted to watch a movie that was like one really long SNL joke, then you got what you wanted with Chip and Dale.
I didn't watch that.
No.
Was that on Disney Plus or something?
I think so. I don't pay attention to what they put on in the other room. I don't know what streaming services they have. They just put things on, and I'll occasionally watch them.
Yeah.
My dad didn't even watch the whole thing. He was passed out drunk on the couch halfway through the movie.
Well, what else do we have to talk about?
Yeah.
Blizzard making more money on mobile games than everything else combined.
Oh, yeah, there's that. I would also had the financial reports for Square, which says something kind of similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, here's...
we can talk about that.
Yeah. I don't want to argue too much with Sketchbook. If you didn't like it, you didn't like it. That's cool. I didn't make the movie. I'm not going to take it personally. But, in a 90-minute movie... You can't do more than a 10-minute montage, or a 5-minute.
Even if I made the movie, I probably still wouldn't take it personally, but like, whatever.
Yeah. He's saying the montage of her practicing with the tomahawk wasn't good enough, but I'm like, what are you gonna do? Yeah. Maybe she practiced more off screen. I don't know.
I will agree with Sketchbook on that though. I like the 1987 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle cartoons, and going back and watch them, they aren't good. I actually still enjoy them, but almost somewhat like a nostalgic, guilty pleasure, having watched reruns growing up. Yeah, they really aren't handled that cartoon or that good, even compared to cartoons at the time. But there's a certain charm to them that still makes them likable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, apparently, here on the Vomitorium, Prey has gotten mixed reviews.
That's fine. I actually honestly prefer things to have mixed reviews because I have a hard time believing anything where it's all favorable or all negative. Like it's sometimes it's clear, like the last Tomb Raider movie definitely should have been all negative, and it seemed to be that across the board. But it's very actually rare that something has no redeemable qualities whatsoever.
Yeah. So personally, I'd give it honestly an 8 or 9 out of 10. But that's just me. I'd give it a pretty high score.
Now, see, that sounds ridiculous, but then I have to remember how most people rate things. I'm like, oh, okay.
Well,
Yeah.
okay, an 8 out of 10, I'd say. But,
Yeah.
you know, but I mean, like I said, I can't, and I see what Sketchbook is saying as far as his things he had problems with. I didn't have any problems. I had no complaints.
Yeah.
Really
Because when I hear an 8, I think like it's a fucking grand slam.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
I think a decent, a movie you should watch that I would recommend.
Yeah.
I didn't say you're always in the wrong. I said it got mixed reviews. See, you didn't like it. I did. That's all right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, he really didn't like it. All right.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you're wrong. That's
I have no
just
stake
like
in this. I haven't watched the movie.
That's just like your opinion, man. That's cool.
It's just like your opinion, man. I love this. My favorite.
That's right. So here, I mean, that's fair. Sketchbook did not like the movie, so
Yeah.
take that,
That's
and
fine.
that's fine.
I bet the CGI was poor quality. When's the last time you saw a movie with good CGI? Like, I mean, really,
Oh, gosh.
really good CGI. And I think like the Marvel
man.
films have kind of lowered people's bar for what good CGI is.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of thought Infinity War and Endgame were decent. As far as the
Decent, but I mean,
CGI.
like really good.
Ah,
Like
I don't
one criticism, I don't think the Avatar was a good movie overall. Like I don't think it was this spectacular movie, but it actually had good CGI. Like it did a good job of what it was doing. Like you don't often get good CGI.
yeah. I will say a lot of this movie was very dark.
Yeah.
A lot of it took place at night, which kind of bothered me, where I was like, I can't see anything.
I'm trying to hide the CGI probably.
Yeah, I think that's maybe why. But like, there wasn't a lot of CGI in this movie.
Yeah.
It was just, I mean, was the creature CGI or was it practical? I didn't even
I don't
notice.
I mean,
mean,
obviously, one
obviously
of the
some of it
strongest
was.
parts of the original was that the creature was literally a man in a costume.
Yeah. I don't know. I have to go back and watch.
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking about it because, like I said, I was immersed. I enjoyed it enough that I wasn't like thinking about those things.
CGI has been a disaster to the human race, the Wuhan fishmonger says. You know, probably.
It's hard for actors to act to nothing.
It is.
You know?
Oh, man. Who was it? Was it Ian McKellen, I think, was the one who broke down in The Hobbit? Yeah, playing Gandalf.
Yeah.
And he was like, he was on a green screen, and there was no one around him because it wasn't like the old Lord of the Rings where they would use like perspective shots and stuff like that. He was just walking around, and it's just like nobody to act off of. And he said he broke down crying because he was a stage actor before he got into movies. It's like, this isn't acting. Because a lot of acting is using the expressions and emotion of everybody around you to reinforce your own, and you kind of get into a living scene. Yeah.
Well, anyway, like I said, I take everyone's opinions into account, and I liked it. Sketchbook didn't. So, like I said, mixed reviews, which is perfectly fine. Nobody's got a wrong opinion.
Yeah.
Character actors can act to nothing, I guess.
I see Rick has jumped in.
Uh-oh.
How you doing, Rick?
We have a visitor.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's my trying to get
We
my
have a-
camera to work. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah, we
fine.
hear you just fine.
You can just leave the camera off if that's not working.
I just wanted to show off something.
I mean,
Oh.
you can stay spinning dots for all I care. That's no problem.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Why does it not want to connect video? Oh, I know why.
There he
we
is.
go.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a big Canadian shield.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it's a bigger one is behind him.
yeah.
Got
Oh my
the
gosh.
cardboard cutout.
Nice.
Yeah. Now, is that actually life size? I think we were talking about this before, but it looks like it's close to life size if it isn't.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, okay.
It's life size or close to life size, you know. But because it's angled a bit, technically it's 8 foot, but because
Yeah.
it's angled just slightly, you know.
Yeah.
With
yeah.
the angle, it probably makes it slightly under light. Well, I wouldn't say slightly under, but it distorts the straight up life size.
Oh, well, that
part
doesn't
of
matter.
it.
As long as the image is life size, that's all that matters. This shows us like,
Yeah,
is
I
that
just-
Omni-Man? No, that's the Canadian shield.
Yeah, created by me. I have a thing on Indiegogo right now for him and my other book, as we were talking about a couple weeks ago on here. But since I finally got it, I like showing it off the
Posable
action
action figure. That's actually pretty cool.
Where'd you get that from? Like-
There's a guy named Rex Barjar. I think that's how you pronounce his last name in the Philippines. Tank put me in touch with him or gave me the name. Looked him up on Facebook and
That's awesome.
contacted him about doing one for me, and it's on the campaign to get as well.
Does he take pieces and parts from other action figures and just paint them? And
I'm
mean, how
not
does it-
I'm not completely sure how he does everything. I think he does sculpt some stuff. You know, I gave him the one thing about the Hulk body, you know. So I think he grabbed some sort of Hulk one and, you know, made it 8 inches or whatever. You know,
Yeah.
printed it out or whatever. I don't know exactly. Because it is 8 inches high too, so which
So
is
is that-
using
is that 1/12 size? Is he normally 8
I
feet?
yeah, so I guess 1/12 size.
Yeah.
Cool.
1/12 scaling.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm going to use for all my characters.
inches would be 112.
Neat.
Yeah. And I'm going to use that for all my action figures. Do a 1/12 scale. So when I do a snowdrift, she's going to be 5 3/4 of an inch. So, you know, you'll end up seeing the height differentiate.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
So
Very-
you guys were talking about the new Predator movie, which I haven't seen.
Well, to be fair, we were
Yes.
trying to change the subject.
Okay. Okay, well, I'll help keep you. I guess I changed the subject somewhat.
Yeah.
But I don't want to keep it on me, you know. Since, you know, Metal was nice enough to have me on a couple weeks ago.
Oh yeah, we did dedicate pretty much a whole show to it for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what else is happening?
Let's see. I said there was some financial reports where it does seem like most people are making most of their money off of mobile games at the moment, whether it's Square, or Blizzard, or anybody else. Oh, actually, something that we were supposed to talk about last time, but neither of us had seen the direct or anything, was the Pokemon news. Yeah. That was
Yeah, I
supposed to
watched
be
it.
top billing. I did
Yeah.
too. What did you think of it?
Well, you know me. I'm not that big of a Pokemon fan to begin with.
That's why I want to know what you thought of it.
Just from looking at it, I looked pretty cool with the open world thing. And,
Yeah.
once again, it's got the ire of the graphics fanboys. I noticed some people who were like, "Oh, look at it compared to The Last of Us. Oh, Nintendo's
Fuck The
graphics
Last
are
of
so
Us."
bad." I know. I'm like, yeah, but who would want to play that game?
Yeah.
But
Except the multiplayer. The multiplayer for the original Last of Us is pretty fucking fun. I will give it that.
yeah. Well, the multiplayer for Pokemon looks fun.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, there's what's it called?
Oh, the terrestrializing? Or terrestrializing? I don't know how to pronounce it, but
Basically, turning your Pokemon into crystal. That's an interesting idea. But like you said, that's like the same as Gigamax or what was the thing
Mega
in Sun and Moon?
Evolutions before that, yeah.
But I don't know. It looked like Pokemon.
For the most part, yeah.
But open world, which is cool.
The problem is especially with the way you do these things, trying to appease an old audience and trying to change things to try to grab a new audience, is you can't please everyone, right? Like, if the graphics aren't a certain way, you're going to piss off people like, well, it doesn't look good enough to attract me to the game. But then if you change too much from the old way, you're going to start pissing people off. It's like, well, now you're doing things that I don't want in the game anymore, right? If I do get upset, I tend to be more in the older crowd there, just because I've been playing Pokemon forever. And I will acknowledge there are a few things that, like, I will step back and be like, it's probably okay that they change it. I don't like it, but that's just like the boomerism of playing the game forever. But then there's something that I think are just like plain stupid. I don't think is healthy for the game. And there's a lot of stuff that just looks outright retarded with this new game. Just outright. I thought the terrestrializing was kind of retarded, the new gimmick. It was like, maybe I'll have to see more with it, but it just looks like it's story shit, which is fine. If it doesn't affect gameplay too much, it's cool. But Mega Evolutions, I thought, were bad for gameplay. They were really fucking cool, but they were bad for gameplay. And Gigamaxing, I thought, was pretty bad for gameplay, too.
One thing I found interesting was that with the terrestrializing or whatever, you can change their types.
Yeah.
And each individual Pokemon may have a different type for its crystal form, which I thought was interesting. So, like, you can get 2 Pikachus, and this one may have a water type, and this one may have a fire type for its sort of secondary type, which is like, that sounds complicated, but
yeah, it sounds very complicated. Now, again, like I said, it may be okay, right? Just changing a type might add a nice dynamic to gameplay that doesn't necessarily break it. I remember back with X and Y for, like, competition, some of them just outright banned Mega Evolutions, the stuff that weren't, like, Nintendo run, more of the grassroots stuff. And then Nintendo's was the default rules of the game. You just could not have more than one Mega Evolution because the game wouldn't let you Mega Evolve more than once. But you also couldn't have legendaries and stuff. Like, they've always balanced, like, you can't bring legendaries into official competitions, and, like, here's the ban list. But I don't know, Mega Evolutions really did add in a unhealthy dynamic, and I think that's probably why they took him out. But then they replaced it with another gimmick, and then another gimmick, and it's like each gimmick they add in usually just breaks gameplay, because the entire idea of the game is balanced around having 6 normal Pokemon in your party without any type of added bullshit on top of that.
Yeah.
So you can only collect 6 Pokemon in Pokemon?
No, you can collect all the Pokemon, but you can only ever have 6 in your party, so you have to go to, like, the Pokemon Center and put them in a box and switch out which ones. If you collect any that are more than your party, it just goes to your box immediately.
Yeah. Now the terrestrializing or whatever, I don't even know if that's what it's called. That does give them some more powerful attacks, but I got the impression that it wasn't nearly as powerful as like the Gigamax thing.
Yeah, I think so. Sun and Moon still had remnants of the Mega, but they didn't have Megas in them. Instead, they had the Z move, which I thought was okay. It was just like a super powerful move that you could use like once in the battle. I think only one of your Pokemon got to do it. So it wasn't like they were getting bonus stats. It was kind of like using your Ultra move in a fighting game, you know, but so that wasn't the end of the world. If it's closer to that, that'd be fine, you know.
It's like a limit break.
Yeah, kind of like a limit break.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's hard to tell how it's going to affect it, but I can't imagine. I don't know how much tuning even plays a part in Pokemon anymore.
I don't think it does.
In terms of like trying to get them all to be relatively, I guess it doesn't really matter because they raise levels. So if a Pokemon is overpowered or whatever, you'll just, I don't know. It's hard to explain.
There are certain checkpoints that they care about for or they used to care about for tuning, right? One of the checkpoints was about level 30, which would usually be about the mid game for the main story. Another checkpoint would be about level 50, which would be slightly higher than in the Elite Four. That's about the end game checkpoint. And then after 50, the next checkpoint would be up at 100 because that's where competitive play is. Like you wouldn't play outside of max level, right? So the real balance all came down to is what are all the Pokemon at level 100? Obviously, we don't care about legendaries because those aren't allowed in competition anyway. But you would tune all of the non-legendary Pokemon to be mostly viable. Obviously, that's hard once you start approaching 1,000, but I mean, even back when they were approaching 500, that was difficult. And you'd start getting weird things like, oh, look at Garchomp, who we're calling a pseudo-legendary because he can sweep an entire team by himself and stuff like that. And that's why you start getting complicated ban lists for future Pokemon competitions.
Yeah. But for like most normie players,
most normie players only care about level 50 balance because that's end game balance for fighting the Elite Four and stuff like that. Yeah.
And it's like if you have a Pokemon that's too underpowered, well, just level it up a few more times.
Yeah.
Or
and that's why level 50 balance is important because, like, well, I could always go up to 60 or 70 or all the way up to 100 and I can still fight these guys.
Yeah, yeah. So, but, you know, so you were saying that you thought you had a problem with something with the open world.
Oh,
aspect.
yes.
Something about the gyms.
I'm just
the gyms are still progressive, right? Progressive.
Yes.
Harder
Okay, so the gyms are pissing me off. I was going to work into it. One of the big things too is there's a few other open world things. Part of it made me excited, and then I got upset because they're like, okay, here's the different stories. The terrestrializing is part of the second story, which is the treasure hunt for the school that you're going to be at. Which I hate school. I always hated school. One of the things I liked about Pokemon is that you weren't in school. Right, like you were doing alternative education, studying Pokemon for like a research degree instead of attending a trainer academy. In this game, you'll be in school doing both at the same time, I guess. And I'm assuming the third unannounced story is the gang story because there's always a gang story like Team Rocket, Team Flare, Team Magma, whatever. And they said you could do any of the stories in whatever order. We're not going to force you to do it. You can progress at your own rate. And one of the things they said about that was you can do the gyms in any order because the gyms are obviously a story. And I'm like, oh, cool. We're finally going to get scaling gyms as we all hoped for. No. The site actually says, we got the quote here. I posted it in the content sharing just following up on the conversation from the other day. And it says, there is no set path for the gyms. You can purposely seek out stronger gym leaders, or you can simply stop by a gym that happens to be located in a town you come across on your journey. So that actually could still mean scaling. They could have some that just have tougher sets per level than others, right? But that leads you to believe that instead it's just going to be the normal path and you can just go out of order and stuff like that. Which means you go like, you're at level 30, you go fight the level 30 gym, but you still haven't done like the level 10 gym, so you go back and do that one. That doesn't actually solve the problem. It made the world's explorable. It's no longer sectioned off like it used to be, because you could argue every Pokemon game has been open world, but it also hasn't. It's an expanding world where it slowly opens up as you progress through it. This won't be that, but it's still going to be built as if it is that. And they said, well, that doesn't really solve the problem. I could go explore everywhere, but I'm still just going to run into the same problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like Breath of the Wild, as you progress and as you sort of hit certain milestones, like all the enemies all over the world get stronger and stronger and stronger as you go. So technically, yeah, you can go to like anywhere in the world at the beginning, and all the enemies will tend to be the weaker versions at the beginning, which is what makes it open world. So you can go any direction. And then as you get better,
I get this.
It scales.
Right. To
But
some
yeah, it
degree, I get
sounds
what
like
they're dealing with.
Yeah.
Because the Pokemon, the way the Pokemon games are designed, have to get tougher, right? Like, you have to start with weaker Pokemon, and there have to be tougher ones. So as you go through the world, you're going to have to run into higher level Pokemons. And if the gyms
But it sounds like they're not
getting
scaling.
higher, well, that's the issue, right? So, let's say you're in the starting area, and you go off to what would be the 8th gym. And the 8th gym is still level, I don't know, 8, right? And then but all the Pokemon around the 8th gym are level 45.
Yeah.
Because of the location. There are ways to solve this, but like, I can understand why they didn't do what everybody wants, because they're not creative enough to solve the problem.
Well, why don't they
That's
just
the real
scale all
thing.
the Pokemon in the wild?
You probably could do that. That would probably make you have to overhaul the whole system to some degree. Because this is also the nature of Pokemon. You could scale all of their levels. You could scale their stats to their level like you do when you actually level things up. But wild and trained Pokemon have different stats. I guess you would also have to find like triggers in the code that tell them at this level you should have this moveset instead, right? Like, so you'd hit milestone checkpoints of when they scale up, this is the moveset. And you'd have to do that for every single Pokemon and their evolutions. What you could do is just have to be something you do from the outset, because that'd be a lot to retrofit back in on demand.
Yeah, not everything's cut out for an open world, I guess.
Yeah, no, I think there are ways to do it. So my solution from the beginning, which I think you could still have done with scaling gyms, would have been like an Octopath Traveler, like wagon wheel style world, where you start in the middle, and the further you go out towards the edges, the Pokemon are already higher levels. So you could sneak past them to the gym leader at the edge if you wanted, just following the main road. But if you're actually just fighting things, you probably will just fight the gym leaders that are closer first. But you might still have options for multiple gym leaders, like maybe have 4 closer, 4 farther. I think that was a better middle ground idea, the one that I was spouting out. But yeah, this just seems like they're still going to do a gym leader path instead.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I guess this game is.
No, what were you gonna say, Rick?
I guess this game just came out.
No, it's not out yet. This is they just gave probably the fullest trailer from the last direct that they did, because they actually announced a lot of the features of the game in the last trailer, and then there was also some follow-up information that talked about the features. Yeah, but I guess like the biggest problem with scaling individual Pokemon level, doing it from the beginning, is figuring out how to handle them evolving in the wild, right? Because especially a lot of Pokemon in the wild are evolved at a later level than they are when the player does it. So then you have to consider that to be different, and where to place the evolutions versus the earlier versions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you would think in an open world it would just be random what you come across. Maybe,
Not
it
necessarily.
might be high. Because in the real world you would,
Well, the
if
real
it's
world, it's not random what you come across, right? Like, yeah, sure, if you're talking about within an area, what animal you come across might be somewhat random. You're only going to come across really animals that live in the biome unless somebody released it into the wild, right? So,
Yeah.
like, if you live up next to a river, you are, like, 100,000 times more likely to run into a beaver than somebody who lives in the desert.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what I more meant is,
Yeah.
by random, random of, do you come across, a pup, a pup, wolf, or do you come across a middle-aged wolf?
Yeah,
or,
if you're talking about that, yeah.
Or like a really old wolf, which would have more experience and all that,
And I think this has always been an issue for the Pokemon games with trying to that level of immersion, because you really don't want a player who's only got level 5 Pokemon running into like a level 45 Arcanine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that would feel very realistic, but it would be really bad for gameplay, just torturing your player like that. Especially a game that is centered towards 10-year-olds as their core audience.
Yeah. Well, most open world games aren't like that. They have that real world aspect where you randomly run into, different levels in all different areas. Usually most area, you start out, the ones around you are about the same level. You move out towards other different spots, they're higher levels and all that. In those sort of open world games.
Now, there are obviously some new Pokemon, but is this a whole new generation?
Yes, this is going to be the establishment of the next generation after Sword and Shield. So it will be, what would it be, Gen 9 now, I think? It was 8 or 9. I'm trying to recount how many gens were there. 6.
So why I'm seeing this article about
Sun and Moon.
Scarlet and Violet is making big changes to Generation 5 Pokemon.
Yeah, I heard they were
interesting.
getting some callbacks from 5.
Yeah.
But they're doing a lot of big changes, period. Like, they do this for zones ever since Sun and Moon, right? Like the Alola type, where, like, there's going to be a Poison Wooper in this zone, which is a Gen 2 Pokemon.
Yeah.
So we're going to see a lot of that. I didn't see specifically which changes to Gen 5 Pokemon they're making, but that doesn't surprise me that they're going to be. I wouldn't be surprised, given that they're Mediterranean, if Spain, like Italy, I think, has their own type of ice cream. It's like, how Italy's got gelato. There's like a Spanish
Gelato?
thing too. No, that's Italy. There's like a Spanish version too. But like, I wouldn't be surprised if there was like a Spanish ice cream version of Vanilla Ice. Would be funny, or even a few of the other things. But they do this periodically.
Yeah.
I actually got upset that they didn't have a Hawaiian shaved ice version of Vanilla Ice in Sun and Moon. That would have been great. Missed opportunity, Game Freak.
Oh, yeah. Come on.
Yeah.
I don't see, Google isn't telling me that there's a special kind of ice cream in Spain.
Yeah.
But
There's some dairy treat. I'm probably thinking of something else, but
well, it just says they have ice cream. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It's not calling it anything different.
But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they changed something. They do it a lot. I'll have to ask my Spanish friend. I know there was some type of weird dairy thing. It may not be ice cream related, but it was some dairy dessert. But
Can you show us the feet there, Rick?
Oh yeah.
Oh, neat.
No, it's
I've
just
just been
action
staring at
figure.
it.
I was on stream. I don't know if that's a smart idea.
Yeah, no, not his feet. Yeah, he knew what I meant.
Then of course.
Just been staring at the Canadian Shield, like wondering how far. I didn't know if he was like on a stand or what, but that's cool.
Yeah.
The boots, I should say.
Yeah. It's Canadian
Well,
Shield.
the
You put him
feet-
on a
the-
stand, he's too tall.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. But that was kind of my biggest problem. There's a lot of other things. I think the legendary Pokemon is kind of retarded. Okay, like I don't like
ride?
this. The fucking Transformer motorcycle thing. All right. And here's my bigger problem.
So-
It's not even that it transforms into a motorcycle that I think is retarded. Okay, it's that the game just gives it to you. And this
That's
is
what I was
my
wondering.
problem
You
with-
get them at the beginning?
I don't know if it's going to be the beginning. They're probably going to give it to you probably close to the time that you would normally get your first HM in the older games, because this is going to be your major form of transportation outside of walking, right? So you're probably going to be on foot for a little bit. Maybe you do like your first gym or some checkpoint early in the game, maybe an hour into the game, and then you're probably going to get this thing. And this is going to replace all of the normal hidden moves that you use for transport. This thing is going to be, you're going to run on it. It's going to turn into a motorcycle. It's going to climb up walls. It's going to swim. It's going to glide, replace fly at a certain point. You're probably not getting all of those movements at once. You're going to get them throughout the game, but it's going to be with you the whole time. I would assume so. They're a Pokemon. But maybe they can't. Maybe you have to unlock the ability for them to fly, because it'd be kind of broken to give you a legendary Pokemon at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, I know. That can, like, it would basically, like, why would you even have a starter if you can just immediately fight with your legendary?
I'm assuming maybe you can't fight with them. Maybe they're like replacing the Rotom that is in your Pokedex in the previous games or whatever. I don't know. We really don't know that much about it yet, other than it's going to be your major form of transport. And I have really hated in recent games where they just give you shit like this for free. You don't feel like you earn it. Like in X and Y, to teach you Mega Evolutions, they just give you a Lucario. You don't really earn it. You just hit a certain point in the story and be like, oh, cool, here you go. Here's the Lucario. Here's your Mega Stone. Boom, Mega Lucario. Have at it. And I'm like, thanks, I guess. Or in the Ruby and Sapphire remake, here you go. Here's a Latios or Latios for free. Didn't have to fight them or anything like that. Now you could use the sword mechanic that we put into this game for reasons. And then they started replacing HMs with the Pokemon rental system, which it's fine, because it just feels like HMs. The HM's not taking up a move in your Pokemon's like 4 slots that it gets per move anymore. But none of them were your Pokemon. They just popped into existence when you needed to surf or whatever, and that is kind of lame. It was a better alternative than just giving you random shit. But I don't know. That's what this feels like. It's just the replacement of the Pokemon rental system. And I was thinking, like, why couldn't you just replace HMs by giving you, like, a license that is like, hey, if you have a Pokemon that should be able to use Cut now, you can use Cut or something like that. It doesn't have to take up a move slot, but you still need to have something in your party that could do the thing. If this Pokemon has wings, sure, you've unlocked the ability to fly in the game. You can fly now. I don't care if it's like a special badge, special license, a special like stone of magic, like, oh look, I've unlocked the power of flight. But it's like, why do they have to give you things for free to not restrict you or fully restrict you by taking a slot? Why can't there just be a healthy middle ground of you still need the thing to do the thing?
Beats me.
And although Marsupial answered Joshua, I was gonna say Joshua is insinuating Marsupial has a foot fetish.
Yeah. Apparently, the toes do not have articulation. How does he know that?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, they're stuck in a boot.
Yeah, you could sort of tell
I
that.
suppose.
I mean, I guess the boot could have had like front articulation for the toe section to bend. I've seen that sometimes. That's a very minute thing that would be very rare for action figures.
Did
fact,
as long
I
as
think-
Joshua is here, did I show you my my new Raven artwork that I got at Anime Matsuri? Metal.
No, you did not. I didn't know you had
Do you-
Raven artwork. Yeah, you could put it
Yeah.
on. Yeah.
This is not the risque version because this is the 3D lenticular where if you turn it, it looks a little bit different.
Yeah.
This would be the time to be raving about it.
Yeah, there you go. That's the new Raven artwork that I have.
Oh, nice.
If you
Yeah,
can
that's
see
pretty
that.
good.
Okay.
Hail Raven.
Yeah. Hill Raven. I even asked the guy, because of course they also had Starfire. And I asked the guy, should I get Raven or Starfire? He said, he didn't even bat an eye. It's like, of course, Raven. Of course.
I mean, you could have gotten the Starfire as like a sacrifice. You could record yourself burning
Yeah.
it and send it to
Yeah,
Joshua.
I
that
could
would have
have.
pleased him. Maybe he would have let you back into the Discord.
Yeah. I don't know who the artist is. I'll have to go back and look at it. Yeah, Joshua's seen it because I think I posted it on Twitter
Yeah.
somewhere, but I don't think I showed it to you.
Just yesterday, I think Joshua finally seen the coloring of his Canadian shield that he did for the drawn and quartered.
Oh, nice.
And put a video up, sped it up.
Oh, cool. Cool.
There's another controversy regarding Pokemon.
Oh,
That I have no idea how this became a controversy other than the fact that the internet is the internet and they're fucking retarded. So there was a character that was shown, well, one of the gym leaders, right? That is a boy. It's just a boy wearing a heavy scarf, some makeup, and he looks kind of girly, but you know, there are girly looking boys out there. And the internet being the internet started getting into an argument saying that this was a trans character, even though this is also the Japanese that we're talking about.
yeah.
And it's just a very, very, very girly boy. But the internet can't let that rest.
Or certain people on the internet can't let it
Yeah.
rest.
Twitter can't let
There's-
that rest.
There's a similar thing about a character in Xenotype. Oh, wait, not Xenotype. What's that
Xenoblade?
new Xenoblade 3, right?
Yeah. I think
I can't remember the name of the character, but basically, yeah, it's actually a girl who is a bit tomboyish.
so. Yeah.
Well, it's more of a tomboy. No, I mean she's girly, but you know
Yeah.
she's kind of like one of the guys or whatever. I can't remember the name. It's like Lavender or something. Anyway, it's a character in that new game that everyone's like, oh, clearly non-binary, and then you look at the Japanese, and she's clearly referred to as a girl all the time.
Yeah.
So there's a character in Pokemon that's a boy
Yeah, it's just a boy.
that's just girly.
Yeah. It's
That's
just a
a bit effeminate.
fashionable, feminine boy, but it's just a boy,
Yeah.
or actually probably a man. I mean, by standards, like I have no idea how old the character is. Maybe he looks late teens, but you know, it's like nearly
People
adult.
are always
You know,
people are always projecting their own hang-ups and
Yeah.
mental illnesses on other people. It's like, no, not everyone has to be just like you. So that's controversial, huh? Only
Yeah,
on
yeah.
Twitter, I'm sure.
Twitter and Reddit, but the two places
No,
you
of
expect
course.
it to be. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, what are you going to do?
I don't know. Rub it in their faces and keep saying it's just a boy.
That's right. Just a
It's
boy.
like, I don't know. The game company's on my side on this. Or actually, more so, I'm on the game company side on this. I mean, to be fair, if the game company had said otherwise, I would agree with them because it's their character. They can really just do whatever the fuck they want, but that's not what they're doing.
But being a Japanese company, it's just very unlikely.
Yeah, and even then, the way the narrative describes a character will always be different than the way the character describes themselves. Because I always think of the character of Jikotsu in Inuyasha, who was a man that dressed and looked like a woman in like every way, wore makeup and stuff like that. Had a thing for men, specifically Inuyasha, but the story always still referred to Jikotsu as a man because that's how the Japanese sees things. Their narrator is separate from the character, and the character's identity, or how they refer to themselves, isn't actually their identity, because your identity is something external to yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have to say, though, that character's wearing a really cool jacket. I don't care what anybody says about it. That jacket looks comfortable as fuck.
What character is that for the jacket?
Oh, it's the fuck. Let's see if I can find an image of him. It's the Scarlet and Violet. Like, I guess it's gonna be the Ice Gym leader based on how he's dressed. Let's see if I can find it.
Sounded like someone was calling for Dad in the background.
Oh no, that was calling for Matt, my brother slash former co-host on here. He used to be on here a lot during the Legacy version of that show. Let's see if I can find this.
Sketchbook brings up She-Hulk. There was a funny. I watch Scott Adams a lot. He's a total normie. He knows nothing about comic books or anything. But when he heard about the existence of She-Hulk, he just laughed. This is like last week. He was like, "There's a She-Hulk now." He's like, "Give me a break." I know. People were trying to tell him, but he was just like, this is so stupid."
Didn't I used to have this cropped?
Yeah, there's been a She-Hulk for like
40
years.
Yeah, but normies don't know. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, well, some do, some don't, but yeah.
So that's a boy?
Yeah, that's a boy.
Man. I gotta say, that does look like a girl.
Did you put it somewhere?
Oh, it's on the stream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let me...
Who didn't know who there was a She-Hulk? Scott Adams, the guy who does Dilbert, the Dilbert cartoon. He was like, She-Hulk, is that a woke thing? Is that new? What is that?
Yeah, but
People
tell me
like,
that
no,
jacket doesn't look like it would be warm as fuck.
Yeah. It does.
No.
Is that the controversy, whether or not the jacket's warm?
No.
Looks like he's wearing Ugg boots too.
No.
Yeah, I can see how the character looks a bit effeminate, but hey, if the company says it's a guy and just a guy.
Well, also aside from the hair, right?
Well,
like you look very girly. You could even wear makeup, or whatever. But aside from the hair, there's not enough of the body for you even to tell if that's a guy or a girl. Like it's bulky clothing and stuff like that.
True.
Yeah.
That reminds me of is that other Japanese. I think is it Japanese? That other game. The game I have on here on the phone. God, what is it called again?
I don't know. I don't have your phone in front of me.
That shoot, Fantasian.
Oh yeah.
Fantasian. Tell me that main character is not a girl. it's supposed
You've
to.
been
It's a
saying
guy,
this, yeah.
but it's like it looks like a girl. But no, it's just
No.
Japanese.
It's the Japanese, yeah.
It's just a Japanese guy.
Yeah, it's just a Japanese guy. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, a bunch of Japanese guys look like Japanese girls.
It's like no, they're
It's
not.
just a common trope too. Like
He's not an alcoholic. He's just Australian.
yeah.
Yeah, here. I can show you this too. Hopefully it'll. Oops.
Yeah.
You see that guy right there? That is a man in a Japanese in the game Fantasian. That is a man. Like
Yep.
what?
Okay, the face definitely looks really feminine, but
Right?
can't tell much.
Yeah.
Hard to tell
It's
with
just-
the angles for the chest or whatever, but
Well, yeah, it's a man.
I mean, you could be
It
a,
is.
the chest doesn't even tell you anything, right? You could always have
Yeah.
a flat-chested woman.
Yeah.
yeah,
But that's just,
True.
the Japanese style.
Yeah.
It's, what are
Yeah.
you going to do? I mean, Link is awfully effeminate sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah.
No,
And
it's not a girl.
sometimes
It's just
Zelda
a
is
Japanese
awfully
boy.
masculine. I mean, if you weren't told
Really?
otherwise, Sheik, right? When she pads herself to look like she actually has
Oh.
pecs and stuff,
I always thought Sheik looked like a girl. I mean,
Yeah.
it never
No,
really
Sheik is
fooled
definitely
me.
very feminine, but I mean,
Yeah.
especially you look close. But there is a lot of
No,
people
she
who
looks
were
like-
fooled.
She looks like a Japanese boy.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Which to our eyes looks like a man. Or looks like a girl, I mean.
Yeah.
But at any rate. You mean Zelda? Yeah. No, I mean Link.
And while nobody was
Eh.
fooled by Tetra here in the States, because again, a lot of people have feminine designs. Apparently, some people in Japan thought Tetra was a boy at first.
Really?
Yeah, especially because of the wording. In a lot of Japanese, in writing, you will see pronouns, right? But in speech, it's common to just drop anything that's not necessary. Nouns,
Yeah.
direct objects, whatever. Yeah, well, apparently there were people in Japan, in the Japanese translation, they at first thought Tetra was a boy, which makes sense because she is supposed to be dressed to look like a boy as the pirate captain.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy Japanese.
it's really, really crazy.
Let's see.
So, yeah, here's more about the legendaries. Miradon and Corridon.
It sound like they belong in Zelda, like the faces of evil or something like that.
I did think it was weird when I said that basically they hinted that you basically get them very early on in the
Yeah,
game.
I hate it when they do that.
I don't
It
understand.
doesn't
that.
feel like you earned anything, you know?
Yeah. Unless you have to defeat them with like a level 5 Pokemon.
Yeah, but then how good of a legendary really are they?
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons I like
Maybe
the
they're
HMs.
ones. Maybe
that
they're
right?
legendaries that you need to scale up.
I don't know, but like one of the reasons I like the HMs as a concept is that you would see things in the world that you couldn't get past, right? Like there'd be a bush you couldn't cut, or there'd be like a rock you couldn't smash, or water you couldn't traverse. And even if they gave you the HM, you still needed like basically a license to use it. and you had to beat a gym leader. And like, oh, look, now you can use cut outside of battle. And it felt like you were getting some of the world, like you actually earned something. And it's just like the way they do things now, it just doesn't feel like you earn anything. You're just kind of getting pushed through the game. Especially because like they have the group EXP thing. And that was like the worst thing to me when you couldn't turn that off. It's like, hey, I don't have to train my Pokemon individually. They all just level now. I could have somebody sitting in the back of the party that I never touch. They're just there for a rainy day in case my main Pokemon actually passes out. Yeah. Ugh.
So did you want to talk about Square Enix? Their very bad
They are
earnings
doing
report, I guess.
really, really bad right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So typically, year by year, right? They're worth net value way more, but I think their liquid assets are about $2 billion. They usually have $2 billion in and out every single year, on average.
Yeah. 2 billion yen, right?
No, way more yen. It's close to 100 billion yen. It's like 2 billion. Is it 2 million?
$2 billion.
Yeah, it's $2 billion because they're closer to like 100 billion yen year after year, which we're about 2 decimal places off of each other.
Yeah.
Since the yen is basically their penny, they go off their actual base value while we go 100 of our base. So on average, it's about 2 billion American dollars, and they've been going lower on not just their liquid, but their actual gross revenue and everything is typically much lower too now. And part of it seems to only be a decline in what they call their HD gaming experience, which is just what they call basically all their single player games are their HD games. That goes from every HD re-release down to even something like Octopath Traveler or even the Final Fantasy VII Remake or Kingdom Hearts 3. Those are everything that's classified in their HD games. Because we're actually seeing kind of somewhat growth, somewhat stabilization between their mobile games for smartphone / PC browser. So like, I don't know, War of the Visions, Brave Exvius, things like that. All their phone games, they went up. They're expected to go a little bit down, but we don't know yet. And we're seeing an increase in their MMOs.
I think we're boring Rick here.
Probably.
He's falling asleep. Well, so here's the thing, though. They haven't released anything like of their main IPs in a really long time.
Yeah.
Have they? When was the last time they
see.
released anything? It was Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Well, technically, I guess they count a lot of weird things. That's the odd part about this, right? Because it's like, well, they released Integrate, but Integrate's really just an expansion to Remake. It's not even like the sequel yet. It's not a full game, right? And
well, plus they released that like a year ago.
Yeah. And then they're re-releasing it, right? So they expected more sales on Steam, it was Origin first or Epic first and then Steam, which that one I could see actually a big increase in sales because previously it was locked to only PlayStation, but they didn't see a huge increase in sales, and they're not seeing a huge increase in sales in anything that they're re-releasing or even releasing, just period. And that might be why they were getting rid of things to Embracer Group like Crystal Dynamics. This actually, looking at the trend, seems to be the big reason why they got rid of things like Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Interactive.
But like they've got all this stuff upcoming, and I'm just like, yeah, this entire year up until they release, what's it going to be? Crisis Core, the Crisis Core remake.
Yeah.
Is that their next big release?
I think it is.
I
I guess their last big release, but it's too new to actually count. And the record was Live Alive.
Yeah, but that's not
It's not a new game, but it
it's
also
not a
is
main-
because the West never actually got to play it.
Well, no, I'm not saying it's not a new game. I'm saying it's not one of their core IPs.
Yeah, well, I also
It's-
don't think Crisis Core is going to sell very well.
Oh, you don't think so?
No, the original didn't, right? And that was on PSP, not Vita. A lot of people actually had PSP. It didn't do bad like Vita did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but they're not. They're not. I don't know when they're releasing Dragon Quest 12, and they're all ways away from the next Final Fantasy 7 remake installment and Final Fantasy 16. And it's like I don't
think
know.
there's
It's
also
just-
a bigger culprit to this too than even not even releasing things, right? Because even then you get trails year after year, right? It's not as big as the launch window, which is what everybody cares about, but you do normally see a steady increase in sales. Final Fantasy 7 and 8 are still outselling any game long term because people still buy the old versions of the games and stuff like that. I think a bigger problem is all of Square's focus on Sony, right? They've completely stopped making games for PS4. Even Sony said they're done with production for the PS4. Everything's on PS5. They are doing so many partner deals with Sony where they have at least timed exclusives for a year or more on PlayStation 5 only, and you still can't get a PlayStation 5. Good luck finding one anywhere. They're still having trouble. Even now, even me and my brother were just at the store. We were talking about this earlier. We saw Switches on the shelves. We saw Xboxes on the shelves. We saw no PlayStation 5s on the Walmart shelves whatsoever. Like
the PS4s.
I think there were a couple old PS4s in the back, but no PS5s. Like, you just still having trouble seeing it. And that's a very risky investment to be making games only for a console nobody can get.
Well, what is that Dragon Quest 3 remake coming out on? It's coming out on
I don't
Switch,
know.
right?
I think it's going to be on Switch. Crisis Core actually maybe won't suffer from this because it might be cloud version. Who knows? But it's going to be on Switch. But again, I don't see a lot of people buying the Crisis Core remake, period. Regardless of what it comes out on. Crisis Core, while I thought it was a good game, was never a popular game. Even on a system people had. It'll probably be more popular than the original, but I don't think it'll be that popular in general.
Yeah.
But there was a problem with all the Final Fantasy VII spin-offs, right? Like, I guess because you're releasing them back-to-back off the hype of 7, you might be able to get more people to get it, but hardly anybody bought Dirge of Cerberus for PlayStation 2. And PlayStation 2 was a system that everybody owned, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking at Walmart Canada for the PlayStation 5. Apparently, it's available online here to buy.
Yeah, you could probably find them online in several places because they'll ship, right? But good luck finding it on the store shelves.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what I think they need to do. This Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D remake, obviously they need it needs to be on Switch. But they
Which
need
should
to
be able
release
to run
it
easily on Switch because it's the same engine as Octopath and Live Alive. They're just using the same framework and everything. It's engine. It's Unreal, but the same framework they already built up in the engine.
Yeah, but they need to do the same treatment for 4, 5, and 6 at least.
Yeah.
7, 8, and 9 would be great too, frankly.
Yeah.
But,
I agree. Oh.
And I think those would sell great on the Switch. Apparently, there's no release date and no platform announcements like what they're going to be on. But I assume they'll be on Switch for that one remake.
So what we have from their financial report is what they expect Q1 of next year to look at. And obviously those expectations are from where Q1 was this year to what is happening right now and trying to see a through trend, especially with what they are releasing later this year, keeping in mind with that. And based on those expectations, or even what's happening right now, the MMOs are currently year on year outselling their HD games. That's how, and it's not because the MMOs are doing drastically better than what they were. They're having kind of like a steady rise, right? We're seeing like 10 billion yen, 11 billion yen. It's expected to hit up to 14 billion year on year as of next quarter. So we're probably somewhere between the 11 and 14 right now. It's because HD is 14, Dragon Quest 10, and 11 are what they counted those right there. Which is mostly 14, but 11 does still sell quite a bit. Actually, there's been a resurgence in 11 because of 14, and in Japan, Dragon Quest 10 does numbers. Like, it is doing really well. It's because their HD games are declining, and it's expected to drop from 25 billion yen as of the first quarter to only 12 billion yen in next first quarter.
Which is like $120 million.
Yeah, that is a huge drop. And that's what they're expecting right now. That could change again because there's some releases coming out, but they don't expect it to change, according to their own figures.
Wow.
Make, turn-based Final Fantasy.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, because looking at it, if we're looking at first quarter of 2021, their HD games were pulling in more money than their smartphone games. Barely, but it was 34 billion yen to 30 billion yen, right? With MMOs being the smallest cut of the pie, right? Then we see next year, it's 25 billion for HD, then it's 33 billion for smartphones. So the smartphone games have overtaken their console games, with MMO slightly rising. Now we're seeing an expected dip in the HD games, their console experience, even a slight dip to, they expect it to go down to 27 billion for the smartphone games. But I mean, who knows? They have a couple games coming out. They could do very, very well.
They're still making a profit, right?
Yeah, they're still making a profit. But what we're seeing is that they are still going to be making most of their money off of mobile games in this upcoming year.
What are Square Enix's mobile games?
The thing is, they have a ton of mobile games. What aren't theirs? Like, they're retiring one soon, which is Record Keeper. But they've got Final Fantasy Brave Exvius. They've got War of the Visions Brave Exvius, which is a tactics game. They've got Echoes of Mana, which came out recently and is doing pretty well. They've got a romancing saga game that's doing well, too. They've got First Soldier, which was, I'm guessing the reason they had a peak from the previous year to this year's first quarter was probably because of the launch of First Soldier. Most people were in the beta, but they were still making money in the beta, obviously, and it got its official launch recently. Like they have a lot of phone games. That's probably it's the bulk of the market.
Isn't it Japan that's outlawing the gotcha stuff or whatever?
No, Japan's not outlawing gotcha.
I thought it was some country.
There's some European countries that are, and China might be. The thing is, China makes a lot of money off of gotcha. I only see them cracking down because the EU is, like, out of response. I don't see them doing it on their own. Because they make more off of gotcha than any other country does. Even more than Japan. In Japan, they like their gotcha.
I was going to say, couldn't that affect the sales or whatever for the mobile games? Because most mobile
that might be
games
part of their expectation, is because they know that European countries and maybe even the EU itself, because it was brought up to the EU Parliament, might be outlawing certain versions of this gotcha stuff, things that are the same as loot boxes, right? So there are still going to be microtransactions that are available, but anything that's not considered predatory.
And Asmongold has said he wants to talk to, like, Ted Cruz about these conversations.
I like Asmongold because he's not political. He just has the things he wants to do and will talk to anybody as long as he gets it done.
Yeah. And he basically said, I don't care about his politics. He's just like, I see Ted Cruz as basically being against gambling,
Yeah.
for very different reasons, maybe, or maybe similar reasons. But he's like, so he seems like the best person to talk to about
This
it.
seems like a tool to get the thing I want done. So I'm going to go. With
Exactly. He's like, he may oppose it for Christian reasons. That's not why I oppose it, but I don't
It
care.
doesn't matter. Yeah.
I want to talk to him about it. So that, who knows? Maybe the U.S. will start to crack down on that.
Maybe.
So, I mean, what's the bottom line? Is Sony going to try a hostile takeover of Square Enix? Or
we've been talking about this too. And there have been rumors that Sony wants to buy it out. But I think some of those rumors were bad translation because what it seems like, I had another article up on this. So instead, Sony might be buying parts of Square Enix, or Tencent or Nexon might be buying it, because Square is looking to possibly sell stakes in even more studios to focus more on Japanese stuff. So they might just be bleeding off other things they've acquired over the years, like they just did with Eidos and Crystal Dynamics.
Yeah.
So
if I were them, I'd just be like, simplify Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, Kingdom Hearts, and just like, very little else. That's what I would do.
Yeah, like a big one they might bleed off is, I would assume, Luminous Productions, which is currently developing Forspoken. That seems like one that would be pretty easy to get rid of without worrying. Now, a big problem is Square's stupid. They're like, the reason we got rid of Crystal Dynamics and Eidos is because they thought Tomb Raider and what was the other one? Deus Ex cannibalized sales from the Japanese games. So I'm like, Square, no, that did not happen.
I mean, I don't know that the game industry is so big. I don't know that any one game cannibalizes another game.
Also, like, not only are most of them
kind of stands,
they're in different genres as well.
Yeah.
And
weird.
You think at least that money was still coming to your company, though. Now, even if they did cannibalize, you sold it to another company in which those games are still going to be made, maybe even better ones that would compete against your games if you really think that they were hurting your own sales. Like, this just doesn't seem like a really smart idea overall if that was the reason.
If they're both good games, you'd think people would just buy both.
Yeah, if they can afford it,
Yeah. But I mean, I'd say a better explanation was that one game just isn't that good.
Or a better explanation is that they are in the hole and they're looking to save face by saying they thought it cannibalized sales, which, I mean, I want to assume that Square is a better business than just saying that they cannibalize sales,
Yeah, that's weird.
But looking at the way things are going, maybe that is just hopeful thinking.
I'm always astonished at the sheer volume of weird, secondary IPs and shit that Square Enix has, and I'm just like, guys, just simplify, follow the Steve Jobs method of just like, who are our target demographics? Like, just simplify down to Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, Kingdom Hearts. That's it.
What you're good at.
Pick a fourth one and
maybe even instead of cannibalizing other companies, right? And you want more IPs, why don't you just bring back some of your old ones? Like, what was the one they just did recently? I'm trying to remember. They just brought back an old NX title.
Star Ocean?
No, actually, Star Ocean might be delayed indefinitely, which is upsetting some people. No, the one with the town building. I'm trying to remember the name of it.
City?
No, we talked about it earlier this year.
Dragon Quest Builders?
No, it was an old SNES one.
Oh, ActRaiser.
ActRaiser, that was it. I was spacing on the name. Yeah, they just brought back ActRaiser, which is an IP that's just been sitting in limbo forever. They've got all kinds. They could bring back the Seventh Saga and make like a game of that. Like, that was a good SNES one. They've got tons of old IPs sitting there, that they don't touch. But no, they'd rather just buy another company.
Depends on how they did the ActRaiser one, because ActRaiser 1 versus ActRaiser 2 were sort of completely different. You didn't have the city building in ActRaiser 2.
They,
Oh,
they
this
did a
is-
remake
they did
of
the first one.
original. Yeah.
Oh, they did a remake of number
Yeah.
2 where they had it?
Of
Oh,
number
I
one.
haven't.
They did a remake of the original ActRaiser.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, the original had the city building in. I'm saying number 2 didn't.
No,
Yeah.
well, they didn't do a remake of 2. They just did a remake of the original with the city building. Yeah, the way it was. Yeah.
Which I have on the Switch.
Yeah.
The remake. But yeah, I don't know. Well, I don't get it. They just seem all over the freaking place. If they need to concentrate on a few IPs.
Yeah.
And this HD 3D thing or HD 2D is a hit. I
Yeah,
think.
it's amazing. I think people love it.
I mean, the Octopath was super, popular. Yeah, man, use that to do more remakes.
I totally agree. I think they should.
I'm not gonna
Even
listen
some
to me.
new original titles too. I think Triangle Strategy is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know where their head is. I
well.
don't think they're going to get a hostile takeover, at least anytime soon, unless something very weird happens. One of the things about Japan that's usually pretty good is why nobody's afraid of anyone buying out Nintendo, other than the fact that Nintendo is also a way wealthier company than anybody considers, given the fact that most of their assets aren't even public, and they own Pokemon. They
have like $100 billion in liquid assets?
If I were to take an actual estimate, I would say that Nintendo probably has more money than Apple does as a company.
Yeah,
Yeah.
crazy rich. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
And most of it's in the bank.
Yeah,
And they've also been around for more than 100 years at this point. Like they've been accruing wealth for a really long time.
they've been around literally the 1800s.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, they've got lots of IPs and the merchandising from them all. Not just video games.
They used to be a toy company, then they got into electronics. Like, they are a powerhouse. But other than that, the real reason why nobody was afraid of Nintendo, and one of the reasons why I'm not too concerned about Square getting bought out, if anything, they would just sign into some type of global partnership with somebody, is because of the country of Japan and how it protects its assets. Right? And Square, especially bleeding off its foreign stuff, is firmly a Japanese company.
yeah.
Even
and
more
Sony's
so
not
now.
anymore.
Yeah. And it's already hard enough for companies to merge in Japan. The country of Japan probably would not allow a foreign buyout of one of its the companies to protect their own assets.
Interesting.
Not to say it's impossible, but that means Square would have to be the one arguing on behalf of a merger from the inside, still against the government, because even if they want to, the government would probably be against it. So it wouldn't be a hostile takeover. It would have to be a methodical one where both sides agree on it.
Yeah. But I would love it if they would, come out with a new Final Fantasy or something that would actually work on the Switch rather than concentrating on nothing else but PS5.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Oh, well. Or just release Final Fantasy 16 already. Be done with it.
Yeah.
Well, we've gone way over.
Yes, we have. We should call it.
It was fun.
Yeah. And thank you for coming on, Rick.
Thanks for having me.
We always like it when you're on, and thank everyone for watching. If you enjoy the show, please share it out with somebody else who likes it. The more the merrier. The bigger we get the show, the more fun we can have on an individual day. And if you really, really enjoy the show, consider giving a donation to streamlabs.com/Vomitorium live, going across the bottom of the screen right now. It helps out the show, helps us pay for our very last monthly hosting fee as we transition this into a fuller, stronger live show. And in the meantime, we will see you guys in the next episode.
Bye-bye.